Welcome to Working in Express. This presentation is designed to give you a broad overview of the system and also show you how to navigate it so that you can do your work. No matter what your role is, this will be especially helpful for new users. Let's start with our learning objectives. By the end of this video, our goal is that you can identify what Express is and how it's used, you can navigate the Express system itself, and you can find and use additional training and resources that are available. So let's start with that first point. What is Express and how is it used? Express is an acronym that stands for the Express Payment and Reporting System. It was developed in 2005 by ODHS and ODDS staff with the goal of making it easier to authorize services for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, to allow providers to bill for those services, to allow Oregon to obtain Medicaid funding for the services rendered, and also to give users the ability to generate reports and search results that they can use in their work. And because it deals with all of this confidential information, Express is a secure system. So all users are bound by ODHS's information privacy and security policies. You also get a unique user ID and password, and that's like your digital fingerprint. Everything you do in the system is connected to your user ID. So you're responsible for all the work that's done under that ID and password. Because of this, we remind you never to give out access to someone else to your account so that they can do work for you in the system. So what's changed since Express launched in 2005? Well, a lot has happened since then. And there's been system maintenance, support, and other changes so that a lot more can be done in Express. Here's just a few things. Some case planning work is done in Express. The Oregon Needs Assessment gets entered into the Express system, and also individual support plans get uploaded into a person's plan of care. CDDPs, or Community Developmental Disability Programs, can also determine an individual's overall DD eligibility in Oregon, and they can communicate that person's service eligibility to ODDS through Express. Case management entities, or CMEs, can also create and manage an individual's plan of care in the system. Personal support workers and direct support professionals that work for agency providers can use the Electronic Visit Verification, or EVV feature of Express for their attendant care services. This helps them to comply with the federal laws around billing for these services. So how does it all work? Well, to really understand Express, it's important to understand a concept called foundational data, which helps explain how your work relates to others. The graphic on the screen shows that before services can be authorized, billed for, or payment can be received, that certain information has to exist in the Express system. And that information is entered by different groups. It starts with state staff. ODDS staff defines the services, the rates for those services, and the rules around those services to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They also record provider information and keep track of records, credentials, and the relationship of providers to other providers, or to the individuals that they serve. ODDS also maintains records for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They keep track of the various eligibility that's required for services, the results of the Oregon Needs Assessment, and the relationship of the individual to other providers. And they maintain the financial information and contracts with providers, CDDPs, or brokerages. Once all of that's in place, case management entities can now create prior authorizations. In Express, a prior authorization is used to allow a provider to give service to an individual. First, the CME enrolls an individual in case management, using what's called a case management client prior authorization. From here, a case manager is assigned and all activities for managing their case, such as regular contacts, assessments, and case planning, are completed. The case management client prior authorization is the foundation for all other direct client services. Built on top of that is the direct service enrollment. And if you're a provider, what CMEs do next applies to you. Here's where the case management entity creates the individual's plan of care and your specific service prior authorizations that authorize you to deliver service to a specific individual. Providers bill for their services in two different ways. First, they can create service delivered billing entries, or SDs. These are sometimes also called timesheet data, and they're used for the vast majority of services. A small number of providers can also bill by creating direct claims for service, such as foster care providers. However, the majority of providers create service delivered billing entries, and the system puts those into claims on a regular schedule, and then those claims are sent for payment. In every case, all the work that's completed in Express is checked against the foundational data that it's built upon. If all the pieces are in place, then Express functions well. So now we've covered what Express is and how it's used. It's a web application that's used to manage authorizations, billing, and payment, along with some other case management activities. Now let's get into some practical demonstrations in the system. We're going to get into navigating Express now. We'll begin with our first demonstration, navigating Express using the top menu bar and the left navigation menu. In this video, I'll show you the basics of navigating Express, including logging into the system, using the top menu bar, and also using the left navigation. To begin, enter in your login name and your passcode. I'm going to log in as a personal support worker. This view here will look familiar for personal support workers. For other types of users, your screen may look a little bit different, but in general, you'll have the top menu bar and the left navigation. Starting with the top menu bar, we have the Home button. No matter where you are in the system, clicking this button will return you to this page. Then there's the My Account button. Clicking this will open up your personal account details, as well as your organization and the roles that are associated with your account. Change Password does just that. It allows users to update their password and their identity verification question and answer. Then there's the Help menu. Here you'll find general help resources, both videos and guides for all users. There's role-specific guides, such as for PSWs, for foster care providers, and so on. And there's some material that's available in multiple languages. The customer service menu gives you options for contacting us directly or submitting an Express technical assistance request that allows a user to contact our technical assistance team for help with the system. And then there's the Log Out button, which will log you out of the system. Now let's focus on the left navigation menu. This is the primary way that you're going to navigate around Express. And the options that you see here are customized to you based on your user type and your organization and roles. For example, personal support workers have the permission to search for service prior authorizations, to view or to create service delivered billing entries, and to find and manage various types of claims. However, case management entity users and agency providers may see more information on the left navigation because of their roles and permissions. I'm logged in as a CDDP user, and I have the ability to look at client and provider information, to get into more detail with prior authorizations, such as creating them or searching for different kinds. I can work in the plan of care, and also with service delivered billing entries. And I can search for and take action on claims if needed. The key point here is that the left navigation is how you're going to find your way around the system to do the work that you need to do, and what you see is dependent on your roles and your permissions. So if there's something that you need to be able to do and you don't see a way to do it in your left navigation, you may want to reach out to your supervisor or to the Express Technical Assistance Unit for more help. Now, one more thing to know is that some users have more than one organization profile and can switch between those profiles using this menu at the top. Here, as a user for this CDDP, I have a local authority role and also a case management provider role. Currently, I'm logged in as the local authority, so I have the option to work in the plan of care. But notice, if I switch to the case management provider role, the plan of care option no longer appears. and that's because this role does not include the permissions to see the plan of care. And this is just one example of how your different roles may give you access to different parts of the system. Now let's answer an important question. How do services get authorized and paid? First, the case management entity creates prior authorizations. Remember from before, a prior authorization is used to confirm that a provider is authorized to deliver a service to a specific individual and also to allow that provider to bill for it. A case management entity creates and manages the service prior authorizations in an individual's plan of care. Next, the provider creates service delivered billing entries. And that's a key term. A service delivered billing entry is the date and time worked information entered by a provider in Express to document that a service was delivered. It's sometimes referred to as a timesheet entry or timesheet data because it captures the start and the end time of the service. But it can also be for the amount of service depending on what you're billing for. For example, if you're billing for mileage transportation, you would enter the amount of miles driven rather than the time you started and stopped the service. Once they're created, service delivered billing entries go through different statuses, and eventually most go to approved status. Express automatically looks through the system for approved service delivered billing entries and puts those into claims for payment. Claim creation occurs at different times for different types of providers. For example, personal support workers, their claims get created before the pay date on the PSW collective bargaining agreement. Agency providers and foster care providers, their claims get created generally every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now these claims also go through different statuses, and eventually most go to approved status. When that happens, the approved claims get sent for payment. Let's see this all in our next demonstration. We're going to review how the plan of care, authorizations, and service delivered billing entries are all connected to each other in Express. In this video, we're going to learn how a case management entity creates a plan of care and authorizations, and then how a provider bills against those authorizations and claims get created. I'm logged in as a CDDP user, and depending on your role, you may not be able to do everything in this video, but it shows you what's happening in the background for authorizations, billings, and claims. For our case management entity users, you can go to Plan of Care, and then search for the plan of care that you'd like to open. I know the prime number of my individual, so I'll enter it here, and then I'll select Find. From the results list, I'll open up the most recent plan of care that begins on 5/1/2025. Now this is an example of what a plan of care looks like in Express. There's other videos that show in detail how to navigate through the plan of care, but in this video, I can quickly see that there are two services here. There's attendant care, and then there's transportation. I'm going to look at the attendant care service. So I'll click the service area in Home Services, and now I see two authorizations for this individual. Let's take a look at what a service prior authorization looks like. I'm going to open up this authorization, and here I can see the details of what's authorized for this individual. I see details about the individual themselves, who the provider is that's delivering this service. I can see the date range that this provider is authorized to deliver services, and I can also see here the rates section. Clicking this shows me what the rate that's being paid for this service is. Now remember that an authorization is created so that a provider can deliver service to an individual and then bill for it. So that's something else we can see here is each billing created against this authorization. Moving down a little further, I can click the Service Delivered section. And this shows me every service delivered billing entry that has been billed against this authorization. It displays details like when the shift started and ended, and also the status of the SD itself. For any SDs that are in approved status, it will show a claim ICN number if that SD is part of a paid claim. And looking at it this way helps us to see how these different things are related in Express. We have the authorization that gets created, Then the provider creates billings against that authorization, and those billings get put into claims. Now, a claim can have many service-delivered billing entries as part of it. We can see that here with all of these service-delivered billing entries having the same claim ICN number. And you can see that this is a hyperlink. Let's open it up and take a look at what's inside. Here on the claim view page, I can see a lot of information. Much of it is similar to what was on the previous page. I see the individual's information, the provider's information. I can see the rate as well. But there is some additional information, such as the billed units field, where it shows the total amount of service that's part of this claim that's being billed for. Also the paid amount field, which shows the total amount paid for this claim. And then the net payment field, which shows what the provider actually received after any client liability or provider liability deductions. In this case, there aren't any liabilities, so the net payment is the full amount. Scrolling down a little bit further, I can also see another section here, Service Delivered, and when I click that, I see each of the service delivered billing entries that are part of this claim. Now, just like those service delivered billing entries have to be in approved status before they can be put into a claim, the same is true for the claim itself. Payment is only sent once the claim itself reaches approved status, and then it's processed for payment to the provider. So this is the full cycle of service billing. The case management entity creates prior authorizations, the provider delivers the service and bills against those prior authorizations. Once the billings reach approved status, they're put into a claim, and then once that claim reaches approved status, the provider is paid. Now, to build on what we just learned about navigating the system, we need to answer a question: how is an individual's information organized in Express? This is a flowchart graphic here on the screen, and it's read from left to right. It starts with the individual, and from there, we see the arrows go to both the plan of care and to client prior authorizations. Now, the individual may have just client prior authorizations, or they may have client prior authorizations and a plan of care. But if they have a plan of care, then they have service prior authorizations as well. And together, between the service prior authorizations and the client prior authorizations, this represents all the services that an individual receives. As we learned before, each service that an individual receives is delivered by a provider. So both the service prior authorization and the client prior authorization boxes lead to the provider box. Once services are delivered, the provider creates either claims or service delivered billing entries. If service delivered billing entries get created, then those eventually get put into claims, so we see that arrow from the SD to the claims box. And what's really powerful in Express is if you have even just one piece of this information, you can generally find anything else in the system related to it. Let's look at another demonstration video, and in this video, we'll see how to use a search page in Express, particularly how to search for SDs, although much of the information applies to other search pages too. In this video, you'll learn how to search for and find service-delivered billing entries. I'm logged in currently as a user at an agency provider, but many other types of users will be able to do these same steps. To begin, go to the left-hand navigation and select Plan of Care, Service Delivered, View Service Delivered Entries. Now, if you're a personal support worker, your left menu may look a little different, but you'll still have this link here, View Service Delivered Entries. Once the page loads, there is a lot of criteria. You have to enter at least one to search, and the more criteria that you enter, the more specific your results will be. Here's a few key criteria that's good to know to search by. Client Prime lets you use an individual's prime number to limit the results to just that individual. The Pay to Provider record allows you to search by the main provider record so that you can see all of that provider's service delivered billing entries. The service element, procedure code, and service modifier code allow you to get very specific with the type of service that you want to return. Status is very important because once you select the status, it allows you to take action on the SDs that return. Begin date and end date refer to the actual service date of the SDs that are being searched for, and the submitted, created, and reviewed from and to fields are similar. They refer to the dates that the SD was submitted, created, or reviewed. Now there are other criteria, but let's demonstrate a search using just a few of those. Since I'm a user at Provider 1, I'll only be able to see SDs that my provider has created. Let's say that I want to search for SDs for OR526 attendant care, and I want to get more specific. I want it to be one-to-one attendant care. And let's say that I want it to be just on May 31st, 2025. I'll enter that in the begin date field and in the end date field. Now with just these criteria, I'll select Find. Looking at the results, I have a long list of service delivered billing entries. Let's say I want to get even more specific. I only want to return results for this individual right here. I'm going to take that prime number and I'm going to add it to the client prime section. Now I'll select Find. And when I make that one change, now I've reduced those hundreds of results down to just one SD. So this is a good reminder that the more criteria that you add, the smaller your search result set will become. And that's many times good. It's what you want because you're trying to find information about a specific provider or maybe client or a specific service delivered billing entry. Looking at the result set, we have a few things we can see here. We get basic information like the SPA ID and the SD ID. These are also hyperlinks that will open up those pages so that you can examine them in closer detail. We see the individual's prime and their name, as well as provider information and the case management entity that authorized this individual's services. We learn information about the service itself, such as when the service began and ended, how much of the service was billed for, and the rate and amount that was paid. We see the status of the SD, and for any SDs that are part of a claim that's been paid, you'll see a claim ICN number here. This is a good indicator that an SD that you're working with has been paid. And for electronic visit verification services, you'll see begin location and end location, latitude and longitude coordinates. Now, one more important thing about this page is it allows you to take action on SDs. To do so, enter in your search criteria, and then make sure to select the status. In this case, I'm going to select Approved. Then select Find. And what's different this time is that because I've selected a status, the checkbox on the left-hand side is now enabled. This allows me to check the box and take any action that's listed here at the bottom of the screen. The actions are dependent on both my permissions as a user, but also the status of the SD that I'm working with. In this case, an approved SD can only be voided. So after checking the box, or checking the all box if there was multiple, I can select Void. And after the action's complete, I see the results showing me that this SD was voided successfully. That covers our second learning objective, navigating the Express system. Now let's learn about finding and using additional training and resources that are available. In our next demonstration, we're going to explore the Express Help menu, Workday Learning and YouTube, and the Technical Assistance request. In this video, let's talk about 3 key resources that are available to help you as you work in Express. The first is the Express Help menu. After you've logged in, you can go up to the word Help and hover over it, and you'll see a menu open up that's broken out into general information, such as user accounts and troubleshooting, but then information that's specific to each user group. Personal support workers have a section, so do foster care and agency providers, and so on. You can use this menu to find guidance on different workflows that you might need to complete in the system. For example, let's say you're an agency provider and you want information about creating or finding service-delivered billing entries. Well, you can hover over Agency Providers, go to Plan of Care, and then POC SD Billing and Claims, and you'll find different guides that apply to the service-delivered billing entry section of Express. Now, you can always use these flyout menus to find out more information, but you can also just click the word Help, and you'll be taken to the Help menu index. This index is every single guide and video that's available, but it's just shown in a different format. It's still broken up by those sections, general information, and then by user group, but it appears in a longer list. Here you can use the search bar to type in a word such as authorization, and only links that have the word authorization in them will appear as blue. Or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control F and type in a word, and each instance will be highlighted. You can use your keyboard or the buttons available in your browser to jump between different results. So that's the first thing that's available, the help menu. Second is we also have e-learning courses that are self-paced and interactive that you can take to get further training about Express. These are found on the help menu under your user group, Workday Learning Courses. I highly encourage you to take the course An Introduction to the Express Payment and Reporting System and Express for your user group. To access these Workday Learning courses, you do need to create a Workday Learning account, and the instructions to do that are here under the section Workday Learning Courses. Each of these 4 user groups, foster care, agency providers, CDDPs, and brokerages and state staff, all have a Workday Learning Courses section. For personal support workers, we have some training videos that are available on YouTube. So I encourage you to watch the course Introductory Video Express for Personal Support Workers available on YouTube. This video summarizes the essential work that you'll do in Express as a personal support worker, and it's hosted on YouTube for easy access. Lastly, if you need help with a specific situation, such as a provider, an individual, a plan of care, or anything else in Express, you can always submit a technical assistance request by going to the Customer Service dropdown and selecting Express Technical Assistance Request. On this page, you can enter in your contact information and the preferred way that you'd like to be contacted, whether by email or by phone. You can submit the request for yourself or for someone else, and you can select a category and a subject and provide additional information about it. For example, let's say you have a suspended service delivered billing entry, but you don't know why and you'd like to fix it. Take a look at category, SDs and claims, and then you can select the subject, suspended, and provide detailed information about the SD. Then once you send the help request, the technical assistance unit will be notified and they'll follow up with you. So in summary, those are the 3 resources that are available to help you to do your work in Express. There's the help menu, the YouTube channel and Workday Learning courses that are available, and also the technical assistance request. Thanks for watching this training video. We also appreciate getting your feedback, so I invite you to complete a short survey about this course by scanning the QR code here on the screen using your phone or mobile device, or going to the description section of the YouTube video and selecting the link. There you can complete a brief survey to provide your observations and suggestions for improvement on our videos. And thank you for your hard work in behalf of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities.